Hi, this is Paul Katz. I'm the chief software architect at EfficiencyNext, and in this video, I just want to show off a workaround we did for a bug that's currently in SharePoint Online, specifically the add-in model. In case, just as a review, the add-in model is one of the extension mechanisms for SharePoint Online and SharePoint, which lets you integrate external application functionality into SharePoint. So this is a SharePoint team site right here, and Efficiency Spring is actually our platform, and it we built it to be compatible with the add-in model. It inherits the SharePoint theming, and this happens to be our people database. So we built a tool which is a integrated database capability, one-to-many database records, graphing, just lots of great stuff in it. But actually, recently we noticed there was an issue with SharePoint Online, which is that if you, let me refresh to make sure my style sheets are up to date, is that if you were to change the style of the basic SharePoint site to something that's not the standard blue, it actually, the add-in ChromeControl, which is the mechanism for integrating with SharePoint, doesn't bring in the updated colors. So let's go to change the look, and we'll see this in practice. Let's pick something where I like this one, the immerse one. Try that. Let's keep it. All right, so we have a nice new theme. So let's go and click on Efficiency Spring CRM again. Now what you might notice is if we refresh the style sheet, there'll be some theming. Let me refresh it because we cache it. But let's refresh it to get the new SharePoint styling in, and you'll see that some of it doesn't come in. Now, one reason why you're seeing a mixed result here is that we actually came up with a technology called ThemeHelper, which on the server side brings down SharePoint's theme colors, and we use that to populate elements of the design that don't have SharePoint class matches. So if we go to Visual Studio, you'll see that we have a style sheet that we use for SharePoint, which is our Efficiency Spring classes for our system, but we have a class called ThemeHelper, which lets us bring in all the SharePoint styles. And the ThemeHelper class, we go to definition. Essentially, we build a client context. And this is why I'd refresh the style sheet, because we cache it, so it doesn't do this every single time it loads. But essentially we have our own style sheet, but we populate SharePoint theme colors right in. This is actually a great approach if you have an external application you want to integrate into SharePoint, and you have a fully developed CSS mechanism, and you don't want to redo it completely. This just lets you put in theme helpers. But if we go to the theme helper class. Let's see, go to ThemeHelper here. You'll see that once the client it accepts the client context, and all it really does is it uses client context web theme info, and it gets the colors, gets all the theme colors. And this server-side method, unlike the ChromeControl, which is used to integrate to SharePoint, isn't broken. So if you actually look at view source, if we look at view source here, just so you understand what the ChromeControl is. The ChromeControl is this bit of code right here. Essentially, we have a jQuery element. We grab the SharePoint URL. We build out the layouts. We build out to the controls.js. And then this render Chrome function is what loads the CSS files from SharePoint, loads all the styling. And as you've noticed, this part of the design should match with the new theme, but if we inspect it, you'll see the background color from SharePoint is still blue. So this is a bug. It's actually documented in GitHub. I was on a support call with them a couple months ago. They said they were having having trouble getting traction to fix it. So they're putting a lot of investment in the SharePoint framework. I'm sorry, the kind of the newer embedded method of integration. Maybe it is the SharePoint framework. Excuse me, I'm just going to... Yeah, the SharePoint framework. So that's their new client-side object library. Add-in model, though, is actually very important if you're going to integrate into external applications, especially if you want a full screen experience that happens to integrate into SharePoint. So that's the issue. We're not getting the proper colors. But actually what hit me a few days ago is, well, we already have the ability to get colors on the server side, and with a little study of SharePoint style sheet, we could simply, in our own style sheet, which renders lower, simply reproduce the styles we need. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to paste this in, and you'll see these are a bunch of styles from SharePoint style sheet. And kind of ironically, what I'm doing is I'm taking our ThemeHelper, and I'm just overwriting the incorrect styles from the ChromeControl with the correct ones. So if I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to publish this out to our development server. You can debug localhost. I just, I kind of like publishing it to the web servers. I don't know, it's a little faster when the code's closer to the database that serves the interface that serves the data for the interfaces. Okay, so it's compiling. So while it's compiling, essentially, this is kind of a conundrum for Microsoft sometimes, because every so often, they're rapidly improving SharePoint Online, they're rapidly putting new features, but every so often they do break things. And if you're using a feature set which is useful but maybe isn't immensely popular, they have limited resources. It might be a while till they get back and actually fix the problem, even if it affects applications in production, which it did for us. We've deployed these things in production, and all of a sudden the colors didn't work. So it does fall to the SharePoint community to sometimes come up with solutions, which is the purpose of the blog post, to provide the community with this ThemeHelper technology if you want to use it, and the approach. So publish is continuing. I apologize, I did not think it was going to take this long. So once it's there, we'll have the updated CSS file, and we can do it. Come on, Visual Studio. It's actually very interesting. I published right before the video, and it took maybe 30 seconds. But in any event, so as it's publishing, oh, there we are. So it's copying all the files. It's starting to publish. And so what I'm going to do, so it just published it out there again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a hard reset of the style sheet now. And there it is. Now we have the background image. We have all the links in their proper coloring. The background image was actually kind of interesting. That actually is also available from the ThemeHelper. So at the very bottom, I just have an if statement that says, hey, if the background URI isn't empty, then render that in there. Client context web.url to get the full URL. What I would tell people is, honestly, I just don't think Microsoft has sold the add-in model particularly well. What I would say is, if you're building little widgets that are supposed to plug into SharePoint sites, maybe use the SharePoint framework if you're just using local SharePoint objects. But if you have, external applications, say a multi-level people database or a CRM system that you just want to have your authentication seamlessly integrated into SharePoint, like I was able to click in and auto log in and have the SharePoint theming, and really from an end user perspective, they're just in your portal. The add-in framework is really good. Again, I really think for bringing external applications into the fold, it's a really great way of doing it. But yeah, I would say as far as the little widgets, yeah, the SharePoint framework is is a good approach too. In any event, I hope you find this video useful, and I hope this solves a problem for folks. And I urge you to look at the SharePoint add-in framework, and by all means, leave comments in the video. I'd love to hear some feedback. Take care.